how's everyone doing out there? Welcome to a Word Hole Media presentation of Major League A-Holes. I'm Pete.
I'm Ryan. You are in the hole with Major League A-Holes for episode 153, the postseason edition, as my Tigers have flamed out in the division series. And alas, that was the final respite for Major League A-Holes 5 teams in the playoffs. So we're gonna do a postseason postmortem, I guess you'd call it. I'll kind of recap my thoughts about the Tigers season, which was all in all fucking incredible. You've got some ideas on the next White Sox manager, as a series of candidates have emerged. So that's something we need to talk about.
Little update.
The Cubs may have made the biggest clerical error in the history of baseball, and I've got some theories about that we'll get into. You've got some ideas about what the next free agent steps might be for your San Francisco Giants, and maybe there's more to that than I know. There's some mystery shrouded in what we talked about pre-show. And then we're going to wrap up the show recapping our ridiculous NostraDumbass predictions from prior to the season. And they are doozies. I went through them again this afternoon, looked at our video from that. And we were very confident about many things that came out completely wrong. So that'll be fun to kind of recap all that. So I think with that, we might as well go ahead and jump into the news. Well, the news is that my Tigers are now out of the postseason, having lost Game 5 of the ALDS in Cleveland. Really epic series, really evenly matched series in a lot of ways, in a lot of strange ways, actually. But could not be any more proud of my Tigers just for getting to this point. It's ridiculous they even made it into the playoffs, considering they are 8 games below 500 in the beginning of August. Just a magical run where they're the best team in baseball for the last 2 months. I am wearing my October Ready Tigers t-shirt, which you may have seen in the locker rooms post-celebration after the Tigers beat the White Sox to actually take the final wildcard slot, as well as the same shirt was worn in the locker room after they beat the Houston Astros to win the wildcard series, to sweep the Astros. I had to pick up this shirt. It just showed up like last week, just in time for them to flame out of the playoffs. But I still believe they were indeed October ready. As little known fact, they actually did have a winning record in the playoffs this year. They finished 4-3 with the 2-game sweep in Oakland or in Houston, and then the winning 2, unfortunately not 3 out of 5 against Cleveland. So all in all, lots of fun. It's hard to be angry. It's frustrating, especially how Game 5 ended. I'm not sure how much you watched of these series. There's a lot going on last weekend, especially Saturday, Game 5, college football and everything else happening. So you probably haven't seen. Just another epic game. A horrible moment for Tarik Skubal as he gave up the grand slam and basically ended the Tigers' chances. A really inexplicable ending, as Skubal is going to win the AL Cy Young for sure, as we did predict in our NostraDumbass prediction show before the season. He's hands down winner of the AL Cy Young, but had a weird inning. He was off, had a great start in Game 5. Did not really struggle until suddenly the Guardians just kind of pieced together some weird infield hits, balls just hitting the right place. I don't know if that led to some frustration or nervousness from Skubal as the bases were finally loaded through little fault of his own. But then he hits Jose Ramirez in the forearm and sends in the tying run at that time, tying the game 1-1. The funniest part about that is the crowd was irate, just booing Tarik Skubal, like as if he would do that on purpose to hit him, to push in the tying run in a deciding game series. It was just absurd that anyone would think he did that on purpose, but they were irate. Unfortunately, the moment really got to him because the very next pitch he gave up the grand slam, putting the Tigers down 5-1, and that was essentially it. Even though the Tigers did scratch out a couple more runs, just an uncharacteristic and really strange way for Skubal to end such a tremendous season. So, it was obvious that the Tigers just kind of ran out of gas. The way they were doing things was not going to be sustainable, relying on their bullpen and essentially one starter. We talked about that in the previous episode, but I didn't know how it had worked for 2 months, and somehow it did for all that time. And it finally ran its course. Tigers stopped getting timely hits. They got a lot of runners on base, but unfortunately, they couldn't knock them in. I think they were 2 for their last 26 with runners in scoring position. It was really frustrating as they had plenty of traffic on the bases, just could not get that final hit. So, of course, the bullpen, or the starter by committee, pitching chaos, whatever you want to call it, had worked so well. It kindly met its match when in game 4 it was the first time the Tigers actually had to play back-to-back games, back-to-back days or back-to-back nights. That had not happened throughout the playoffs, actually. They'd always had a rest day in between every game, strangely enough. But so it's kind of the first time you could see the cracks in the armor, that how the bullpen was going to get worn down, and that came to fruition. I do have to say that despite losing the series, I still feel AJ Hinch managed circles around Guardians manager Stephen Vogt, especially in game 3, where Hinch announced his starting pitcher would be right-hander Kader Montero. So Vogt loaded his lineup, as you would, with lefties. I think it was 6 different lefties. So uh, Montero pitched only 6 pitches and got out of the first inning, and Hinch brought in a left-handed reliever in the second, which completely caught Vogt off guard to the point where he actually pinch hit for one of his lefties in the second inning before he even took an at bat.
Idiot.
And that just set off a series. I've never seen that. I don't think you probably have either.
No.
But it set up a series of events where he eventually pinch hit for most of his lefties, which set up the Tigers later in the game to bring in all the right-handed relievers to mow down all the guys he brought in, to the point where he may have had one guy left on his bench at the end of the game by the 7th inning, I think it was. So it was hilarious how he just completely pantsed Vogt. But unfortunately, Cleveland just had a little bit more down the stretch, as I talked about. So again, it's not the ideal way to end the season. It would have been nice to see the Tigers get to the AL Championship Series after making it this far. I think they had a great chance if they could have just won Game 4 in Detroit, because that would have meant Skubal would have been available for Game 1, which would be tonight in New York, and then available also for Game 4 and potentially Game 7 if needed, which would have been the one path that I could see them actually having a chance to beat the Yankees and go into the World Series. Once they lost Game 4 to Cleveland and forced a Game 5 where Skubal was going to have to pitch, it was going to be a bloodbath once they made it to face the Yankees, because they'd have to continue their bullpen bike or their pitchers or pitching chaos, hoping that the relief corps could stand up through back-to-back games, back-to-back nights. It just was not going to work. But that one path was there. If Skubal could have been responsible for potentially three of the only 4 wins they would need in that series. So that was fun. You just sort of knew. I mean, a lot of people were confident. Oh, we're up 2-1 going into Game 4. We've got tonight at home, and then even if we don't win that, we've got Skubal in Cleveland. But it was like, well, once you didn't win that Game 4, it was kind of, the writing was on the wall. I thought Skubal still had a great chance to beat the Guardians in Cleveland, as he had done in Game 2. As I described before, it just didn't work out, and in hindsight, we kind of should have known it was inevitable that things, the way the Tigers were winning games were in such tight margins that everything had to work out perfectly, and it just didn't. So again, proud of my boys. They are the youngest team in baseball. They had 13 of 26 starters were rookies in the playoffs, on the playoff roster, which is remarkable. The best stat was after they beat Josh Hader and the Astros in Game 2 to knock them out of the wild card series. it was pointed out the Tigers' 26-man wildcard roster was a total of $18.8 million in total salary, where Josh Hader was making $19 million that year. So just kind of emphasizing how remarkable what the Tigers were doing was at the time and how fun it all was and how much we should appreciate and enjoy it. And going forward, they have a lot of interesting opportunities to have this much experience in the playoffs, to have this much success with young players. You got to feel positive if you're a Tigers fan. Tigers fans are definitely feeling positive as they set attendance records. I don't think we mentioned this against your White Sox, the last series of the season when they were expected to clinch the playoff berth. They set a 3-game attendance record over 120,000, 125,000, I think it was. In the playoffs, they finally got their 2 playoff games in Detroit in the division series, which they both set attendance records over 45,000, mainly because since the last time the Tigers were in the playoffs, they've expanded the standing room only section. So I think they sold like 5,000 standing room only seats, which is just ridiculous. Probably a fire code violation, I'm assuming, but everyone looks the other way in situations like that. So a lot of reasons to be positive in Detroit. Scott Harris had a press conference today. It sounds like he's interested in adding a right-handed bat, as the Tigers are very lefty oriented, which has worked to their advantage a lot. But it was pretty obvious in the playoffs, especially, that we need more power from a right-handed experienced bat. So that sounds like a position point of emphasis for the Tigers in the offseason. And then obviously they need to add another starter at least. Of course, I'll get into that maybe later this offseason, who the potential free agent pitching candidates might be that the Tigers would go after. But unfortunately, pretty much every team in the majors is looking for starting help from the free agent market. So the Tigers are not going to be alone there and face a lot of stiff competition. So that's going to be difficult. What they do have going for them, of course, is the best pitcher on the planet, Tarik Skubal, to be their ace. We did see the debut of Jackson Jobe at the end of the season and in the playoffs, which came to mixed results, which aren't too surprising. But he's the top pitching prospect in baseball and can slot in hopefully as our number 4 starter, which is not a bad place to be. We've got Reese Olson coming off an injury. Got Casey Mize coming off an injury. Cater Montero, I'm not sure what his long-term potential is, but he did fill in nicely as a starter down the stretch. I don't know how long that's sustainable, but they've got some options. So if they could just add in a decent starting pitcher, someone like Jack Flaherty, who they traded away at the deadline and is now dominating with the Dodgers in the NL Championship Series, that would be a great candidate. But I think everyone in the world is going to be out there going for his services as well. So we'll see how this plays out. But all in all, the Tigers were indeed ready for October, and they made us proud. What a fun run! I'm ecstatic about all of it, and ecstatic about the future of the Tigers. One other thing before we move on to your White Sox, I wanted to talk about with the Tigers is there was an announcement last week that the Tigers and Bally Sports Group are ending their television contract agreement. This year, famously, they were taken off Bally's, or Bally's was taken off Comcast here locally on May 1st for the middle 3 months of the season. They finally did come back in August. Fortunately, those are the worst months of the year for the Tigers, and kind of missed all of it. If you weren't trying to pay close attention, came back and were gangbusters. But it's interesting. So Tigers do not have a TV deal for next year officially, and there's been lots of news across the league about this, as not only the Twins, the Brewers, and one other team that I can't recall. Similar situation. They have announced that they are no longer with Bally's and have made partnerships with MLB directly to distribute their broadcasts. This is a similar situation what happened 2 years ago with the Padres and the Rockies, where MLB stepped in, basically hired the entire Bally's staff that was producing those games, brought him into the MLB fold and is just broadcasting games on the MLB TV app and making that available to direct to consumers in market, which means you can stream games in market without blackout restrictions for the first time, at least in San Diego and Colorado. Well, it was announced last week that the Twins have now started Twins.tv with a similar arrangement. Milwaukee's got the same, and it appears that this might be the case next year with the Tigers. Even though this is not set in stone, the Tigers could still renegotiate a new deal with Bally's. They could sell their rights to somebody else, which seems unlikely. I think we've talked about this before, how base MLB is definitely wanting to bring all the broadcasting rights back into house and have control over all television within MLB.tv, which I don't know the economics of that. I can't believe that's great for the Tigers, as they were just getting free money essentially from Bally's and Diamond, their subsidiary of Diamond Sports Group. They've been in bankruptcy, so that money was going to be drying up at some point. So I don't know how MLB is going to compensate the Tigers or how they're compensating these 6 or 7 teams they already have in their fold. But what I know is going to be good for is the fans, especially streaming fans, because now I can just pay for all Major League games with the MLB.tv package and have the option to add the Tigers games as well. So, of course, that was $125 a month. I'm sure it's going to be $150 a month to have all the games, or maybe even more. But at least it's all going to be in one place and simplify things dramatically and never be a blackout issue anymore, as fans have been crying out for decades, essentially, at this point. So that could potentially be some good news. It's weird. I'm having trouble finding details about this because it is grossly underreported what's going on. I mean, people are far more interested in the Tigers playoff run than in their broadcasting rights deal for 2025. So maybe there will be more information coming out about that soon. But I'm kind of frustrated with the Detroit media in general, because you might recall that on May 1st, all of a sudden, we all learned that the Tigers were going to be knocked off Comcast cable. We learned that morning, the day of. It was not reported. Nobody knew about it. It was like all of a sudden we found out at like 10 a.m. that the game was not going to be on that night. So the Detroit sports media has some work to do. So I'm putting them on blast right now. I'm going to have to do my own investigative journalism to figure out what these details really are going forward, I think. But potential for some good news for fans, at least. The key to this is how it's going to affect the Tigers financially going forward, if they can even compete with other franchises to go after free agents based on their budget. We saw that last year. You and I talked about it with the Twins. We knew they were scaling back because they knew they were losing their TV deal and weren't going to be able to add much to their payroll, and that eventually cost them down the stretch, as they did collapse just in time for the Tigers to take over in that wild card race. So something to keep an eye on, at least. But I have talked enough. You are definitely glazing over there. So why don't we move over to your Chicago White Sox?
I mean, it was such a stream of consciousness. I couldn't even get a comment in on what a great job the Tigers did do. What a surprise it was. It must have been an amazing feeling for you with how depressing this podcast was up until the beginning of August. And we didn't even realize when the Tigers started winning at the beginning of August that it was going to turn into gold. And I mean, from a guy who's your arch enemy in the division, I just applaud you guys. And when I was doing some homework for this podcast, I was going through a list of free agents from teams. Tigers don't have any fucking free agents this year because they're the youngest team in baseball. All this talent is under control, and so you add a few pieces. You're probably you should have the money for it. You're probably like three players away from making some real noise. So
I think you're right. I think you're right. There's potential there. I'm a little worried about the finances, and Chris Ilitch has not shown much of a want to spend a bunch of money, but I also didn't think it was the right time to be doing that. But
Yeah.
Feels like this is the right time after they've spent their time exploring what all these young prospects are capable of, and got a good look at them in the most pressure of situations. So it'll be a good fun conversation in the off season.
Yeah. I just want to do a quick little correction for everyone who is listening. It's $150 a season for MLB, not $150 a month. You get the
Oh,
whole
did I
season
say
for
per
monthly.
month?
Yeah, you did. I was like, wait, what? No. Yeah.
Hopefully,
It's
people
like
understood what I was talking about. But
yeah, it's $24.99, I think, if you do it monthly. But
right,
anyway, you and I have spent way too much money on that. Yeah, so
I think it's money well spent.
let's talk about something more depressing in the AL Central, the Chicago White Sox, and what is going on with this managerial search. I mean, I'll be honest, I kind of thought like the iron was hot, and outside of a candidate being on a team that was in the playoffs, which the list of names doesn't really point to that, that they'd already have someone
Maybe.
hired, but they don't. But my Francona dream is over. The Reds fired
Yeah.
and hired him right away. So Terry Francona is going to be the Reds this year.
I was
But
surprised by that. I was thinking he might not come back at all due to his health issues and stuff. But dude can't quit baseball, so moves to the other Ohio team, and I think it's a great move by the Reds. I think it would have been a good move by you guys, but apparently that wasn't in the cards.
yeah, I mean, I think the Sox challenge is twofold. One, you have the Marlins who need a manager and the Mariners. Now, the Marlins are probably as attractive as the White Sox are right now to a managerial candidate, but the Mariners are a little more attractive. They have a decent enough roster there with a couple of moves that they could, you know, be back in business there with the right managerial and coaching staff. So I think the
I thought they
biggest
were going to be in the
question,
playoffs. I don't remember if you did as well.
yeah, I think I don't know, I don't remember. We'll get to that, but
Yeah.
the thing is, I think the biggest question, and we'll get to these new candidate names that have surfaced, but if you are interested in a managerial job, do you really want to come to the Chicago White Sox? Is the
Mm.
reason we don't have a manager yet because people are just saying no, thank you? I mean, this organization, the there's no secrets anymore. It's out in the public. It's been covered by every major sports outlet on what a pariah Jerry Reinsdorf is. And I just don't see anyone who isn't looking for a shot and doesn't have something in the hopper in the next couple years that would even want to come here. So, I mean, I sadly think the reason Grady Sizemore name has been thrown around is because that's a legitimate candidate because he'll take it. He's already here.
Yeah.
But over the
Boy.
past week, coming out of New York, Paul Heyman, who I like to call Paul Hyman a lot, brought up three new
John
cat.
Heyman?
Yeah, who did I say? Paul? Jesus.
Paul.
John. Yeah, sorry. John Heyman uh, brought up
Phil Hyman.
brought up three new candidates. Cardinals bench coach Daniel DeCalso.
Descalso?
Yep. Will Venable, the
That's what she said.
associate manager for the Rangers, and Phil Nevin, former Los Angeles Angels manager. I'll start by
Phil
saying
Nevin.
Phil Nevin
Wow.
blows. Phil Nevin is probably likely to be our manager, him or Grady Sizemore, but
Wow.
that just seems dumb. Will Venable, I believe, according to this article, has kind of been told like, Brochi's in his 70s. He's probably going to retire again soon. The job's yours. Rangers are in great
Yeah.
shape for the most part. Why does he want to come to this? For Descalso, maybe tie back to La Russa or something. Maybe that's a plus. I mean, the Cardinals were not a very good team this year, and he was part of it. Got them, over the 500 mark this year, and they were kind of in the hunt for a lot of the season. So obviously, he was part of something of getting more out of very little. So that's a little bit intriguing. But I mean, I look at all this, and the fact that they haven't hired anyone yet just leads me to believe that the real story here is people don't want to be the next White Sox manager. So that's my thoughts on it. In a little funnier news, I forgot to uh, text you in the list, but you talking about the Tigers just reminded me of this. Jerry Reinsdorf and the Wirtzes launched their new Chicago sports network, and it's only available on DirecTV, AT&T, and Astound, which is formerly RCN. They did not get a bridge contract in place in time with Comcast. Sound familiar? They're not on any other network. Right now, no one basically in Chicago is able to watch any Hawks or Bulls games. It's back to the old times.
Oh,
It's all the way back to the old times. However, in an interesting development, I didn't know if you were aware of this. This station is available over the air for free. So if you got an over-air digital antenna in Chicago and tuned to 62.2, you can watch this channel for free. I don't know what year it is. I'm not sure who's investing in over-the-air antennas at this point, but if you got one, you can get all this for free. You don't need to pay for it.
that's amazing. So this is not a streaming service then. I assumed you'd be able to just buy it directly from them for $25 a month or whatever.
Yeah.
So that's not even an option for Chicago.
It's not on the table right now.
Well, that's interesting if it was only involving the White Sox, because you've got 6 months to figure this out over the off season. But this is a huge deal for the Hawks and Bulls, which, my God, the Bulls obviously owned by Reinsdorf, but you got to wonder about what the Hawks are thinking if their games aren't actually on anyone's cable.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, the only Hawks game I was able to watch was opening night because it was on ESPN.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
So are there rumors about when this is going to be fixed, or like is this just
no? They just can't in
perpetuity?
Yeah, I think. I mean, if I'm Comcast, I'm like, so you want me to pay you X money to carry your channel, but it's free over the air.
Yeah.
Like I get the idea of like maybe not wanting to open up the coffers for something that I guess if you got a decent enough in-house digital antenna, I mean, I could probably pick it up here since we're on the third floor, but I don't even know if my TV has an antenna outlet to hook up.
Okay, I've got a little bit of insight into that. We had either it was a power outage, a snow out, there was some issue with cable TV during the winter about maybe 10 years ago. It was definitely after HD televisions came out, but we lost our cable for whatever reason for a couple days. So we looked it up online, and there's a way to fashion your own HD antenna out of stuff you'd have sitting around the house. Yeah. I'm trying to remember. It's like you take an old CD case, like the plastic square CD case.
Yeah.
And have two big binder clips.
Okay.
And then you needed maybe just like a piece of coax.
Yeah.
And then you could hook that up, and that would essentially be the HD antenna, and it was perfect. It was like ridiculously perfect. So, I mean, you could rig that up yourself, but you could probably get one for $5 on Amazon too. So that might be the best solution. Fuck all of them. Just get it for free with a goofy ass antenna sticking out of the back of your TV.
I mean, I got CD cases. You beat them all. I got binder clips, and I got shit tons of Lexover coax. So, I mean, it sounds like, and then a tinfoil hat, right? And I'm all good to go.
You have to be, I failed to mention, you have to be wearing tinfoil on your head at all times. But
or
you've got all those things around the house.
Yeah. Or a metal strainer. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah, I thought that was
report back. Yeah, report back next episode how that all works. Hopefully you don't get electrocuted or anything by these home devices. But
I just got this TV. Like our TV crapped out like back in, I want to say like May or something. So we got this new Sony TV. I never even looked if there's like I looked up online. They said if it says it's a TV, it has to have an antenna. It's a requirement by the FCC that it have an over-the-air antenna. So there must be a hookup there. Anyway, so
good luck to you and everyone in Chicago.
Yeah, leave it to the Reinsdorf and Wirtzes to fuck something else up. All right, I'm done.
Okay, well, similarly comedic on the other side of Chicago, The Chicago Cubs have apparently made a clerical error that could be very costly in the future. It was revealed late last week by the Chicago Tribune that the Cubs actually went over the CBT, the competitive balance tax of $237 million. They did that to the tune of only 83 wins, falling far short of the playoffs. So they spent right up to the cap, the de facto salary cap, the Ricketts de facto salary cap. Uh, didn't even make the playoffs. They went over by a mere $300,000, which big deal. They went over the tax limit, so they're going to get charged 20% over that. The calculation came out to either $55,000 or $60,000 in tax. Big deal. That's like a rounding error for a business that size that has such a massive budget. The problem is the way the CBT is written is when you go over 1 year, that counts towards going over a second year where the tax goes up exponentially. It actually goes up for the first $20 million you're over in year 2. Instead of being 20%, it goes to 30%. But the $20 million over that in the year 2 is taxed at 42%. Then 20 million, the next $20 million over that is taxed at 75 to 90%. So you're almost starting to pay $2 on the dollar as you escalate from there. And that while seems fanciful, as we've seen Ricketts over and over again and Jed Hoyer reference the random number that MLB has come up with, this 237 million, I think it goes up to 242 million next year. But it's just a number that the owners can choose to go right past if they decide to, or adhere to directly. It's just money. Eventually, when you get to year 3, it starts involving draft picks and stuff. But for now, we'll just talk about the money side of it, because there's either, again, this $55,000 is not a big deal. But if you extrapolate this, if the Cubs were planning, if they had been planning to potentially go after Juan Soto in this offseason and just blow through the tax threshold, well, now that they're in year 2, they're paying exponentially more money to do that. Where if they had simply stayed just a little bit below this threshold, they wouldn't have that same issue. So they're potentially paying $2 for every dollar they'd be spending over that, just because they had this clerical error. And there's some mystery of whether it's an error or if they knew about it. I've got a couple theories. There's 2 theories essentially that I want to talk about. The one is they just made a fucking mistake, and this is just stupid, but they didn't really care because it's only $55,000, which is embarrassing, but whatever. The theory 2 is far more cynical, and I'll put the tinfoil hat on, as we referenced earlier. A little conspiratorial, but is this a ploy by Jed Hoyer, but really by Tom Ricketts, to justify not spending this offseason, not going way over the tax as we potentially might want them to? As an obvious solution to a lot of their problems would be to go after Juan Soto and potentially paying him 50 to 60 million a year. Is this little error kind of building in an excuse why the Cubs will not be doing this? And I do believe that's just a conspiracy theory, just a cynical fun thing to throw out there by podcasters, jackasses like me. But there is some credence to it, because Tom Ricketts has already talked about this to the Tribune specifically. It's almost like he's putting this idea out there that they can't spend now because of this clerical error. It just seemed very convenient that the news came out there and he's already speaking about it. Like, you don't really hear from your owners, but he was interviewed by the Tribune in the same article. It's like, this is kind of like a PR release to, we fucked up and now we can't spend. Not that they were going to, or that there was any like breadcrumbs leading to think that Ricketts would actually go over that threshold, but it just it's a built-in excuse, and they created it on their own, and now they're putting it out there in the media for everyone to see as soon as they possibly could. So I don't know. It just makes me raise an eyebrow. And I've been so annoyed with basically every time you hear Ricketts speak since 2020, uh, just these things with always surrounding the money. And this just seems a little too perfect to me that they happen to make this clerical error that's going to kind of justify that they're going to lean on this whole offseason on why they might not be able to do what they might want to do.
Yeah,
Um,
I agree,
there
man.
is, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I feel like all signs point to like we're already doing the big Cubs marketing machine on why now we're going to be financially strapped next year to not sign any big free agents. But we do believe with Craig Console and this nucleus of players we have, we can get to where we need to be with
Hmm.
some mid-level additions.
It
Fuck
feels like
off.
we're gonna get told the exact same story we have the last two off seasons,
Yeah.
like just as you spelled out. So I just feel the same narrative is going to be coming from the Cubs why they can't do what they need to do. There is, I believe, close to $60 million coming off the books this year, potentially with Cody Bellinger and others coming off. But of course, they want to re-sign Bellinger if they
Why?
can. Um, he's been productive enough. It would be uh, above market value, most likely, above what he's really worth. But I think he wants to be here or be in Chicago. So I don't know. I think we'll get deeper into what the Cubs offseason plans are. But I wanted to throw out that little bit of news there, and in my own little conspiracy theory. I think you picked up on the exact same things I did. So not surprising to us or anyone that listens to this podcast, I think.
No, not at all. What's interesting is this is a great segue into the Giants offseason because the Giants also did not make the playoffs and they also dipped into the CBT waters when they signed Blake Snell this
Mm.
year. So they're in a similar situation. And I'm calling it right now, guys. Like, don't expect I'll call it any big splashes into McCovey Cove this offseason. They're not going to happen.
Oh,
They are not going to happen. I don't. We already know. We already our new president already negotiated a shit deal for Chapman and Buster Posey, and the idea of like, yes, should they have the money to go get a Juan Soto? Sure. Does that sound great? Yes. But what is Juan Soto really going to do for the Giants, guys, unless they go out and get another power hitter? Because the reason Soto's having his best season is he's protected in this lineup. Remember his last season with the Washington Nationals? What, he get walked 120 fucking times? Great. Walk him 120 times with the Giants because you have okay hitters behind him, but no one that by putting him on base is necessarily going to hit the ball over the wall. So,
mm.
so let's just go with everyone's pie in the sky Juan Soto theory. Well, then you got to go and get Pete Alonso, or or make a trade for another like 30 plus home run hitter guy, a legit, to put behind Soto. Because if you don't, they're just not going to pitch to him. Just like fast go to Barry Bonds at the end of his career. I mean, it just you're just not going to get pitched to. So I think it's a dumb idea. I think it's unrealistic too. What I think they are going to do though, I mean, obviously, I think Blake Snell's gone. I mean, he said his little, oh, I'd love to come back, but he's not. He's going to probably go get a nice, I think this year with the way he pitched in those last like 10 or 12 games of the season, he's going to be able to go get a nice multi-year deal for that. And I don't know that I necessarily want him for a multi-year deal yet at this point because, you know, he seems a little injury prone at this point. So, you know,
Well, he was hurt. He was hurt at the beginning of the season, and then he chose not to pitch in his last start for you guys
yeah, to
to
protect
focus on his
himself.
free agency. Yeah,
Yeah.
so I think he told you everything you needed to know in San Francisco. He
Yeah.
doesn't give a fuck about you guys, or he probably doesn't care about anything except for what his next deal is going to be. So
But
seems like a
I
red
mean,
flag.
let's talk reality here. The Giants have a pretty solid starting pitching core in place. What they don't have is a bullpen. So here's my thought of what they're going to do. They're going to go after guys like Tanner Scott, Dave Robertson, Andrew Chafin, Daniel Hudson this offseason to fortify the bullpen. If they are able to do that, they are able to muster enough offense with with the with the way the starting pitchers can keep the teams in check. So if they're able to do that and turn it over to a competent bullpen, there's nothing to prevent them from being a wild card team next year. I mean, they're not gonna. The Dodgers are a machine. I'm hoping they flame out to the Mets. It sounds dirty to even say that, but I'm not much of a Mets fan either. But um, I mean, it
It's all
would be,
gross in the NL.
yeah. So, so I mean, it's there. The younger talent's there. You know, maybe they can get some mid-level, decent veteran type of position players, a couple, not, huge signings that, are part of what the Giants' way is and fills in those few gaps they're going to have. Um, I feel like they'll be decent enough, but the one thing that is all indications are pointing to there's not going to be any type of reset. They're moving forward with this something we saw a lot here in Chicago with the White Sox and Rick Hahn is this. Well, we got enough pieces here. If we just fill in with a couple of these guys here and there, we'll be competitive. So um, I'm I'm not I'm not sure what's exactly going to happen, but I honestly think that's the direction they're going.
Well, have you heard much from Buster Posey, like specifically what his philosophies are, or what how he wants to rebuild or go forward with the organization? Because you kind of you knew a little bit of the plan with Farhan Zahidi. That's obviously been thrown out the window. I think it's going to be interesting to see how beyond Posey's first move, which seems egregiously bad for the Giants, the deal he signed with Matt Chapman. It's going to be interesting to see what his philosophies or what his strategies are going forward. Without any front office experience, who his lieutenants are, like who's advising him, like how the decisions are being made. I think I think you're right. How attacking the bullpen via free agency is might be a strategy, but you mentioned Rick Hahn, and that was definitely his strategy in 2021, 2021. That didn't work out so well. They spent a
No,
lot of money on the bullpen, and that is part of the reason he's unemployed today. Uh, so it's a dangerous thing, but it seems like that's the position the Giants are in right now.
yeah, I mean, I don't think ownership has any interest in going over the competitive balance tax next year for the reasons you stated with the Cubs. So they too are in the same boat and are gonna sell us on some beans, some magic San Francisco Giants beans, and we'll see what happens. So
Mm. These are bleak, interesting times for the podcast. I feel like this is kind of like Groundhog Day. We keep staying on the hamster wheel with most of our franchises. They keep getting the same story. Like what's going to happen next? What's going to change? What's going to change? Tigers caught lightning in a bottle and inexplicably made the playoffs, but the rest of the teams we follow are woefully inadequate right now, and kind of difficult to see where the next move is going to be that's going to put them over the top. I do have a little bit of Oakland A's news. If we want to transition to the other side of the bay, the this is not really news, but it's something interesting came to my inbox today as the webmaster, the web admin for the Lansing Lugnuts, the high A affiliate of the A's. I got an email from Major League Baseball today saying we needed to wipe all mentions of the word Oakland from our website by November 4th. The official edict came down. We knew it was coming, but the edict did come down that it needs to be done by November 4th. If we don't, they're going to do their due diligence, trying looking at every affiliate's website, trying to find places where we might have mentioned Oakland, but it needs to be removed. I only found it in one place on our website, and I got that off of there on our FAQ. But I don't know. It was just. Oh, and I changed our email signature at the bottom, the graphic at the bottom with our team logo, stadium logo, and the A's logo. I had to change it from the classic Oakland A's badge, circle crest, with just the A's logo. They will henceforth be known as the A's or the Athletics. There will be no mention of any city affiliation going forward. So it's kind of an inevitability, but it was just kind of an interesting moment as it involved my work life, as I'm tied to the A's. Just it wasn't really worded in a draconian way, but it was just sort of ominous getting this email from Major League Baseball, their web admin, marketing directors. Just kind of funny. So that was literally this afternoon. So I just thought I needed to bring it up on this podcast. That might be the last thing we have to talk. I keep saying this, but it might be the last thing we need to talk about with the A's for quite some time. I'm sure there'll be a little bit of news here and there about their stadium, potential stadium in Las Vegas, which is the Tropicana was imploded in Vegas on the Strip, but there's still no deal in place for the A's to build a stadium there. So uh, the wheels are kind of in motion, but with everything with John Fisher, there's nothing official on the table. So I guess stay tuned. All right, I just wanted to throw that in there before we got to our NostraDumbass predictions review, which is our annual making fun of ourselves as we look back at our preseason special where you and I predicted all the division winners, wildcard winners, World Series winners, Rookie of the Year, Cy Young, and MVPs. I thought since our whole 5-team crew is out of the playoffs, this might be a good time to revisit these. And then I actually looked at it was an hour-long segment where we went through all this back in March. I actually watched the whole fucking thing, which is painful. But so I wrote down, I sent you a list of everything we predicted, and you laughed as much as I did as how much we got wrong. I think we essentially only got like half of the playoff field correct, which is pretty sad. We did better in the individual categories, but I don't know if you want to start going through the list there.
Yeah, we'll start in the AL. I mean, we weren't far off. We both picked the Orioles to win the East. They came short by 3 games. I mean, I'm not going to say that was just a terrible choice by us.
They did make the playoffs, so I think
And they made the playoffs. Yeah.
The funny part of the video is you were adamant that the Yankees were just shit and not going to come close.
Yeah.
Of course, they won the division. Now they're starting game 1 of the AL Championship Series. So
what?
It was that was just it was there's yeah, that was I just thought that was kind of fun. You did a lot more predictions outside of just winning the division. You were pretty confident about many things.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to come off like I knew what I was talking about. And the United Front continued for the AL Central. We both picked the Tigers to win the Central, and it was looking like really the dumbest statement ever made. And then they stormed back in August and at least made the playoffs. So,
yeah, I don't feel I feel a little vindicated. They basically they did win more games than I think either of us thought. I think we were both. I think I was going to be about 84 wins. They ended up with I think 86. So
yeah, 86.
We were pretty spot on with that. They did not win the division simply because the Guardians were so much better than either of us could have predicted. So I feel like we did all right there.
Yeah, I think the funniest thing to point out is, and you didn't go with the games prediction, but we both thought, and I remember this conversation, and I remember me saying this, we both thought, oh, the White Sox are not going to be as bad as people are making them out to be.
Yes.
And I said they're going to win over 70 games. Well, I only came up 30 short. So
you were talking about the Vegas under over. It was like in the 60s.
I think it was 69 and a half or something. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, oh no, they're going to win the mid 70s, but
yeah. Whoa. Yikes. That might be the worst. That might be the worst prediction of the entire.
That might take the cake for the worst NostraDumbass prediction. So yeah, we'll give you credit for that.
Well, maybe the AL West and how we saw it is the worst. I picked the Rangers. Oof. They finished 10.5 games out. You picked the Mariners, who kind of imploded for a bit there. They only finished 3.5 out. So,
We fucked that up.
So the wild card, it doesn't really get much better for us. I picked the Rays, who finished 2 games under 500.
That's what I used to always do. And this is like the first year in like 5 years I didn't pick the Rays to win the wild card.
I picked the Astros. They just happened to, as they always do, win the division again. And then I picked the Seattle Mariners to be the wild card team. So I think what none of us saw were three playoff teams from the AL Central. So
I don't think anyone in the world saw that. I mean, that was the worst division in baseball for so long. Three of the 5 teams, 3 of the 5 teams made it. 3 were in the, well, there was a potential that there could have been a completely AL Central AL Championship Series.
Yes.
So I mean, it's just remarkable what the Royals, Guardians, and my Tigers did. So suddenly the AL Central is like the best division in baseball in a weird way.
Yeah, so I missed the Yankees. I didn't even have the Yankees making the playoffs. I'm so smart. KC.
You were adamant against them as well.
I'm just over the Yankees. You did better.
I think you hate the Yankees.
You did better. You had the Yankees, the Rangers, and the Astros. So you got 2 out of the 3. But then you missed KC and Cleveland because we didn't think any
just fuck them.
From the AL Central is gonna fucking make it. So yeah, not too good. So let's go over to the National League now. Historically, it's the weirdest thing for this podcast. I was looking at old notes. We normally seem to do really well with the NL East. I don't know why, but
that's like the most wide open division in baseball with so many competitive teams. So I don't know how we get that right,
but we both had the Braves winning it. They came in second by a long shot, 6 games behind the Phillies. Yeah. So, but the Braves didn't make the playoffs.
We're wrong, but we're kind of right.
Yeah. NL Central is where we really fucked up bad. We had the Cubs. I said they would win 87 games. I was also over on that. They won 83. The same amount. They actually have the same exact record as they did with the future White Sox manager.
I honestly thought, I actually thought 83 wins would be enough to win the NL Central. I just had no idea the Brewers, after losing Corbin Burns and their manager, were going to be just as good, if not better.
Little
strange.
did you know.
Yeah, should have known.
Little did we know the manager is not that great. Moving to the NL West, you took the layup, of course, the Dodgers. That's a smart pick. I went crazy. I went all in on my Giants. And if you just listen to it, I remember it. I was fired up. Giants, everyone's winning awards. It's pop the champagne. This fucker's over. Yeah, well, Soler got traded before the end of the season, and Snell went back on the IL, and the rest equates to an 80 and 82 record. So there you go.
The Dodgers were done. Ohtani was going to be a bust.
Oh yeah, Ohtani's going to be a bust.
That might have been the quote of that show, quote of that segment for sure. There was a lot. There's a lot of anti-Ohtani statements coming out of your mouth.
Well, he almost was a bust because of his gambling problem that they were able to hide.
Yeah, that was a big topic at the time.
Anyway, that was part of my theory was that he was gonna succumb to the outside pressures of the press. So obviously he said, "Fuck you, press," and
not so much.
Yeah, see ya. And a wild card. I had the Dodgers, so they didn't make the playoffs. In case anyone was wondering, they lost to the Mets tonight. Thank you. The Diamondbacks, who fell way short, and I had Philly, who did make the playoffs. Who I didn't have were the Mets, Milwaukee, and San Diego. So for you,
I think I missed those.
Yeah, you had the Giants and the Phillies and the Reds. Jesus.
The
What is wrong with us?
Reds.
What's wrong with us?
Wow.
You missed
Yeah.
also Milwaukee, the Mets, and San Diego. Oh, we missed the same three teams.
Yeah. Well, can't
Oh my
stand any of
God.
those teams. So
All right. This is even better. My World Series is way worse than yours. Mine's San Francisco over Baltimore in 5. Yours was
in
Atlanta.
5.
Yours was Atlanta over Baltimore in 6.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Oh my
That's
God. Well, I just want to apologize for anyone who's listened to the NostraDumbass episode last year because we've been, we're not wizards or anything over here. We're like anyone else. We're taking our best guess. I had a little more fun with mine this year with the Giants, which is just so far off. It wasn't even entertaining now. But I mean, it's just
oh,
really
it's
bad.
entertaining.
This is our worst. This is by far. We have never been this bad.
I don't recall being this bad. But fortunately, we're a little better in the individual categories. So I think we can hang our hats on that.
Well, I
Which
can't.
seems almost really? I thought you did all right.
Well, I didn't. Not for MVP.
Oh.
Yeah, I got Luis Robert Jr.
Oh, yeah.
and Jorge Soler.
I forgot.
Oh yeah.
Oh my goodness. That's about as bad as it gets. So yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty clear. I mean, are we just gonna give Aaron Judge and Shohei Ohtani the AL and NL MVPs?
Right? Yeah.
I mean, it's gotta be. There's no other way to go.
Well, at least I had an outfielder in the AL, and that's what Aaron Judge is. So there.
That's pretty close.
Yeah.
Nice.
You
Well
had
done.
Adley Rutschman and Ronald Acuna Jr., who, of course, had an abbreviated season again.
Yeah, Rutschman started out okay and kind of fell off the table in the second half. So I don't know what's going on. Yeah, not even close.
We make up a little steam here. I mean, we're both going to be winners here. AL Cy Young, we both have Tarik Skubal.
Yeah. We both had Tarik Skubal.
Oh, Tarik, sorry. Yeah.
Triple crown winner. Crown winner. This is a slam dunk. If he doesn't win the fucking Cy Young, there's been a little bit of talk about giving it to Emmanuel Clase.
Nope.
Cleveland's closer. That would be a fucking travesty.
No way.
We will do an emergency podcast if that happens. Just a massive diatribe against whoever the fuck the voters are. Tarik Skubal is the AL Cy Young Award winner. It's just hands down going to happen. Yeah. And you and I predicted it.
That's right. So fuck you, doubters. We know what we're talking about. On the NL side of things, I had Blake Snell and you had Zach Wheeler. I don't think either has quite a good enough resume, but
Chris Sale's going to win it. That's what's fucking crazy. Former White Sox, former crazed lunatic on the South Side. He's going to win the fucking Cy Young this deep into his career out of nowhere.
Yeah.
I think Zach Wheeler is probably going to finish second because he's just behind Sale in pretty much every category. So I don't feel too bad about that prediction. But Snell, you're on your homer kick, as everyone from the Giants was gonna win awards in the World Series eventually.
That's right. I just got a news flash. They did not make the playoffs.
It's tough.
Rookie of the year. I went with Wyatt Langford from Texas, who has some pretty good freaking numbers.
Yeah, I think you might have won that. I'm not sure. I haven't really looked too closely into like what's going to happen with that.
Yeah, 16 homers, 74 ribbies, 19 stolen bases, 740 OPS. I don't know. And you had Parker Meadows for the
I
AL.
feel justified in that. He got off to a terrible start and was actually sent down to the minors. He's come back and been the Tigers' best player and a big catalyst of why they made this run in these last 2 months. Of course, it's only those 2 months, so he's not going to win the Rookie of the Year. But Tigers were 27 games over 500 with Meadows in the lineup, which is pretty impressive over just a couple months span. So and he's emerged as a Gold Glove center fielder, manning an enormous center field in Comerica Park. He's incredible in the field, and he's been a big catalyst even in the playoffs offensively as a solid left-handed bat, leading off quite a bit too. If if he had somehow figured this out earlier in the season, I think he would be rookie of the year. It just took him half the year to figure it out in the minors and come back up, but he has produced exactly the way I thought he might.
Then I had Kyle Harrison for the Giants, and I
Let
guess
me
I
guess, from the
proclaimed he.
Giants?
I guess I proclaimed he'd have 15 wins this year.
Yeah. I don't know
And
what
I
he
think
got to, but
I
I
think
don't
it's
remember hearing
15.
much about him.
Yeah, and then you had Michael Bush from the Cubs.
Solid year for the Cubs. Golly, he's probably one of their most consistent hitters. He was their best power hitter to start the year. He's not going to win it. It's Paul Skeens, of course, is going to win it for, would assume, for the Pirates, but
Yeah,
I don't feel too bad about that prediction. So I don't know. I feel like we did better in general. Well, if you had stayed away from your homerism, you would have been better off for
wait
your
till next
individual
year.
award predictions. Yeah. Well, that was fun. We got to hold ourselves accountable. We talk about we're complete jackasses, NostraDumbass specifically. So we got to come back and tell you how we fucked everything up. But
Yeah, we
I don't
did.
know. I feel okay about it.
Yeah, I'm okay with it. We got some things right.
All right. Yeah.
I think
Well,
that's
unless
it.
there's any shit Pete forgot, any shit I forgot, I think I caught both things I told you I thought I'd forget, and
You
I think I got
did.
them both. So proud of myself. I think with that, we can wrap up this episode 153 of Major League A-Holes. You can find us on our exploding YouTube channel. We had our biggest video of all time this past week, over 4,700 views for MLB plus Strauss equals asshat, where our aesthetic segment where I talked about how the giant Strauss logo on the side of every postseason batting helmet was obnoxious. It's funny, we've got more likes on that, I think, than we've got in any other video we've ever done. But there
That's
are like
awesome.
7%. There's like 7% dislikes, which I
What?
can only assume are German fans pissed off that we're making fun of their German clothing company. But I'm not
This
sure.
guy has a lot of nerve making fun of the Strauss.
Yeah. I don't know what's going on there. So, but yeah, the YouTube channel is going great. So check us out on YouTube at Major League A-Holes. We're on social media at Major League A-Holes. Pete's over there at Socks Type Thing on Twitter. You can find us on the web at majorleagueaholes.com, and our merchandise is at aesthetics.shop, ASSTHETICS.shop. So with that, I think we can declare this podcast is over. Peace.
Peace.
Word Hole Media.